Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I've been here for 10 years. And when I was a freshman, this came up for debate as well. And I sat my children down because on line 3.1, I would qualify. My kids were in, you talk about being emotional. My kids were in 4th grade and 6th grade at that time. And I sat them down because it was important for me as a parent to understand how they would take a look at this. If we would then, I was using the terminology as medical marijuana. And my son, again, being in 6th grade, he said, "Dad, I think I could support anything that would make you feel better." And my daughter, without hesitation, snapped back and said, "Even if it turns Dad into a pothead," right? I knew right then and there, as a parent, through the eyes of a parent, that I would not support this. Now let's fast forward 10 years. My cousin's wife called me and said, "Rod, I understand what your position is on medical marijuana." She goes, "But I want you to do me a favor. Will you please call this woman? She's in Representative Moline's district, and they have a child with some medical issues." I did just that. I introduced myself, told her what my position was. She said that she realized that and understood it, but she also heard that I wasn't unreasonable. So we discussed the issues around that. Also had a number of parents come into the office, in which I'm so proudly able to occupy. There they are right there. And we were in tears. So they were sharing the story. And through the eyes of a parent, my position began to change. And I thank you for sharing your story. I had one caveat, one thing that was extremely important to me. And that was changing the terminology from medical marijuana to cannabis. And the reason why is I've been helping this young man who's addicted to heroin. And I've seen the struggles. And this kid, when he was in 6th grade, he won an award for a report that he did on drug awareness. And today he's 22 years old. And I said, even though we have opium-based pharmaceuticals, we don't refer to things as medical heroin or medical cocaine or medical meth or anything like that, so please. And I want to thank the author as well. Medicinal cannabis. I drove over to the University of Minnesota and I picked up my son, who's now a senior at the University of Minnesota. I called my daughter, who's a sophomore now at the University of Iowa. Where does time go, right? My son's an econ major. My daughter is studying medicine down at the University of Iowa. My son works for the MS Society. My daughter's doing multiple sclerosis research. My son's 22. So I took the opportunity to go to a bar in Dinkytown with him, and we sat across the table from each other and ordered a beer. We started talking about this issue. I called his sister. I asked my son, I said, remember we had this conversation when you're in 6th grade. I said, how do you feel about this issue? He said, Pops, I'd support anything that'd make you feel better. Called his sister, the one that called me a pothead. I said, what do you think about this issue? And she said, you know what? It'd be great to have we need to understand the medical benefactors of cannabinoids. That's a big difference, right? A big difference. Through the eyes of a parent, I look at this differently. And I thank you. My son then laughed and he said, you know, Dad, you switch your position on this, they're going to call you a flip-flopper. And I said, son, you know what? As the information is presented to you, it's the responsible thing to take that information. And, there's some that would still believe the world is flat if they did not change their mind on issues. And then I went on to say that only a fool and a dead man never change their mind. I want to thank you for sharing your story. Representative Moline, thank you for taking the concerns that I had seriously. It's important to me as well. So I'm proud to be a flip-flopper on this issue, and you have my support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative